lights change. It is around 3 o'clock. It's 3:26. And I'm not 100%, but I'll be back on the job this Thursday. Oh man, I'm ready for the weekend, y'all. I'm ready for the weekend. I wish I insulate. Well, I don't know if I really mean that. It would have just filled up the day more if the insulation job wouldn't have got canceled. I'm not going to really say that I wish it wouldn't have gotten canceled, but I kind of wish it wouldn't have. Because I like to have more work scheduled on the calendar and know that there's plenty of work ahead to do. I'm just a little extra sleepy today. Just a little extra tired. And not really from the day's work. Today wasn't a hard day for me. Maybe it's been the heat. Maybe it's been the work off. The other work that I've been doing. Maybe this day started off with a different energy. Miss Brittany. Brittany's at work. So I think she's at work till 4 today. I don't really remember. I have to ask her. I like having a little bit of time from the time I get off work till I go home to Brittany, because that gives me a little bit of time to get something done at the property. And she's not like sitting there missing me with nothing to do. She's at work. But at the same time, I miss when I could just, where I had that, I could just get off work and her be home. Because now we're both working, so just miss her. Hey everybody. I'm on my way home from work. I'm gonna get me some tea because it's hot outside. America, Georgia, in the United States of America, the south part of Georgia. I'm working in Vidalia, Georgia, famous for the Vidalia onion. And I live in Alamo, outside of Alamo, Georgia, between Alamo and McRae, Georgia. So I got about a 40-minute ride from work to home. And I own some property right outside Alamo. Sometimes I stop by after work, but I know the chickens have enough water. I think I'll just come back by when I go to pick up Brittany from work, and I'll stop and check on them then. I think I'm going to make a straight shot to the house. I'll roll one up and give me some sweet tea and cool down a little bit before I start working again. I always work after work because I'm barely getting by just working. Now that Brittany's got a job too, it's not barely getting by no more, but I mean, if I want to get where I want to go in life, I got to work. When I get off work on my farm and build up my side business on the side, I've got about $3,000 invested in trees, and I got to keep them trees watered and keep them trees alive so I make a return on my investment and don't lose that money. And construction around this area is starting to slow down a little bit, I've noticed. And I think about, just in case I want to have just backup work lined up. I know that it's not in India. Hello, India. Yes, it's not here. The sun's really bright. It's really hot. It's about 3:30, somewhere around there. I know I got tea at the house to drink. Kind of thinking about whether or not I want to stop at the gas station and get me something to drink before I get home. I think I got enough wraps. I don't got to stop for nothing. Got enough trash on the side of the road. See, it's real bright and sunny where I'm at. Well, the clouds are covering up the sun, but you can see the heat. I picked up the camera and lost my audience. So. Everybody slow down a little bit. I forget where we worked at today. I fell asleep on the way to the job site and the way back because Gabe was driving. And then the cops had pulled over about 3 different people for speeding. They're doing Operation Slow Down. They've got more police out giving people speeding tickets. So people that would normally go 80 are driving 50. And I don't care if they are either. So I think there wasn't oncoming traffic. I'd pass this guy in front of me. He's riding down the road with his emergency lights on going on slow. Any true Christians in here, just ask me. Well, you know what? I think that Jesus Christ probably did raise from the dead. And that's why word spread so fast. But I read the story of Jesus. I read all 4 of the Gospels. And he just was going to keep doing good and telling the truth no matter how much people got mad about it. And I don't recognize the political entity called Israel as being sovereign over Jerusalem. I'll say Jesus Christ is the King of Jerusalem, the only one fit to govern that city. So I say that Jesus Christ is the King of Jerusalem. I don't know about anybody else in the comment sections. And I don't know what the secret is either. And if you don't want to watch, don't watch. I get paid midnight, but I was seeing if someone could cash at me a couple of bucks, and I will double it guaranteed. That's not actually a guarantee. I mean, I got somebody that just messaged me. They done made 2 or 3 different guarantees, and now they want another guarantee. So, I mean, this is another thing, right? If you can double the money tomorrow, why don't you just wait till tomorrow? I tell you what, though. If Brittany wants something, or my brothers, or my friends, or my family, or my animals, or my plants, or whatever, like my brake pads are squeaking now. I gotta change my brakes, get an oil change. I just ain't got no free money for nobody. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean about it, I just don't. I don't have enough savings where if my truck broke, I could buy another one. And then I'd lose my ride to work. So I've got to build up savings for an emergency fund that I don't even have. I'm getting by week to week. So it'd be irresponsible of me to just be handing money out and then I not be able to take care of Brittany. Or not be able to, you know. I used to give of anybody that asked, and I just got used a lot, and I just don't do it no more. I ain't trying to be everybody's friend. I can't take care of everybody, but the people I do take care of, that I am responsible of, I gotta be able to come through for them. Also, I don't have any ad revenue on this channel. I don't have commercials turned on. So I don't monetize this channel. And I'm not really like, if somebody wanted to send money, they can, but I'm not asking for money. I'm just working my job in construction, trying to build a farm on the side, and that's try to get self sufficiency with food, independence with food. Because if I can grow my own food, I can cut down my expenses about $10,000 a year, and that's how I'm trying to survive. I'm trying to survive by reducing my grocery bill by growing my own food and working some more extra hours after I get done working. 10, 12 hours. I go work 2, 3 more hours. And then on the weekends, I saw this thing right where there's this city, I forget the name of the city, but they're mad because a certain part of the city wanted to make their own school district and they weren't able to do it. So they figured out it was legally easier for them to make their own city. And basically you've got a certain section of the city that's a bunch of taxpayers. They're a bunch of white taxpayers, and the whole rest of the city is on welfare, and they don't want. So these people, they got tired, and they said, we're gonna make our own city. We're not gonna just have all these people freeloading and being a parasite on us. And so now they were constantly saying, you know, we hate white people, they're so bad, I wish they would leave. And then the white people go leave, and then their city ain't got no money, and they're like, whoa, we need you to come back and pay taxes. I don't know what we're going to do in the future, because we got all the net taxpayers having to pay more and more and more and more taxes, and more people just breeding off of not contributing nothing to society, applying for every government assistance. More and more people are just coming into the country to get on welfare. And it's starting to be too much of a burden for the productive people. So your productive people are being outbred by dependent people. You're breeding a parasitic class of incompetent people who wouldn't have even passed on their genes had it not been for welfare money being given to them. And they're able to, so you've got, you're going to have everybody IQ 80 to 65 out reproducing everybody with an IQ. You know, there's not a population with an average IQ of 100 or above that's got positive birth rates. They're all in declining birth rates. So what's going to happen is the welfare people are going to eventually be too much of a burden for the taxpayers to bear. And they're not going to be able to make it on their own. Like, we've cheated evolution. Like, they've been able to breed off of the merits of others. And when they don't have their host anymore, they're going to fall into a chaotic mess. It's crazy how far back we will regress in technology. You need a certain amount of population to have technology anyway. If you've only got like 5 people, everybody's got to be a hunter-gatherer or be a farmer or something. You've really got to get millions of people before you can have somebody be like, okay, I inspect nuclear power plants. And you got to have so many people, so much of a population organized into a labor force to even be able to do certain things. And so people are thinking technology is going to keep advancing, and it's not. We're about to have major labor shortages in the world where we're not going to have enough high IQ people to do and maintain a lot of the systems that we have in place. And we're going to go backwards in technology, not forwards. It's already beginning to happen. I know we see a lot of cutting things coming out, but, you know, we're coming to the end of that. You know, in 50 years' time, Europe is not going to be Europe. It's going to be like, you know, the Middle East. And America is not going to be like America. It won't be a place for people to come to. It'll just be another Mexico. And it's not, everybody's not interchangeable. You know, people are really, like my people are really hated, you know, but we will be missed when we're gone. I promise that. And you can see that about the countries that have thrown out. You know, all the countries in Africa begging for white farmers to come back after they killed them and took their farmland and didn't know how to run the farm, and now they're starving. Or all the wells that got built for them for free and then they didn't maintain them even though they were taught how to maintain them. Or all the railroads that were built for them but they didn't maintain. Or all of them that don't even have a word in their language for maintenance. Or a lot of them don't even have a word for repair. And they're just telling us a lie, because, everyone's afraid of saying the wrong thing or whatever. And you got, Crick and Watson, losing his Nobel Peace Prize because he's saying, hey, genetics plays a role in intelligence. And they're like, oh, you can't say that. That's racist. We're going to take away your Nobel Prize. And so people are not really looking at it this way. They're saying, hey, this is cheap labor. They're not having enough kids. Let's just bring in these other people. But you can't really just bring in other people and replace it. You cannot replace a population with an average IQ of 100 with a population with the average IQ of 65 or 70 and get the same results. And people are going to find that out. But a lot of people aren't going to know that they're even causing a problem. They'd be too afraid to be called racist to even think or talk about these things. And it's like a real issue that we got to think about. Like, do you really want unchecked immigration of millions and millions of people who got IQ 20 points lower than the native population? Where is that going to lead to? But it's just going to be what it's going to be. See, they say, watch for mowers. Let's watch out for this mower. Let's not run over him. I'm watching for the mowers, dude. I'm watching for him. I see the dust. He's kicking up now. He's over there on the side. He's over there. Man, can I pass these motherfuckers? No, there's not a car on oncoming traffic. Oh, there's not. How far up can I pass? I can pass after this guy. Let's get the fuck out of here before somebody gets in that way. He's cutting that grass, ain't he? He's doing a good job. Good job. Good job. All right. It's too hot to be sitting here not moving. I gotta have some wind come in the windows because the air conditioner's broken. When I was growing up, I would get very mad at things that my granddaddy would say that 20 years later, I'd figure out he was just telling the truth, calling it like he sees it. But I was trained to get mad about those things. There's certain truths that are just not allowed to be spoken because they'll hurt somebody's feelings. There's a lot of problems that can be solved if people would acknowledge that there's a problem, but they don't acknowledge the problem in the first place. And they have unrealistic expectations, too. I say a big problem in America, though, is that there's a big part of the country has this culture that doesn't feel that they have any responsibilities, any obligations, any duties. They have no desire to leave the place better than they found it. They really just believe that the government should just be giving them everything. And they don't realize the government doesn't have anything to give except what they take from someone else. So they think this free money is just falling out of the air. They're just like, we should just, hey, let's vote to just give us more money, and the dollar gets weaker. And they just more and more people eating and less people producing. So I just kind of am like, I'm not under the spell of the lies of egalitarianism or all the propaganda of the 60s, and I know better than all that. And so I just know the time I live in. I know America's on its decline. America is not going to get more powerful. It's going to get weaker and weaker. It's falling into degeneracy. Eventually, it'll fall into chaos. And I'm just going to try to put myself in a good position and my descendants in a good position for when that happens. And I think it's been done intentionally. I don't think it's all that our leaders are stupid or incompetent. I think they're doing it on purpose for a variety of reasons. One, Mexicans don't really have a culture of gun rights or even free speech the same kind of way as Americans. So it'd be easier to replace Americans with populations that are used to having dictators, that are used to corruption, that are just don't feel entitled to the same freedoms. That's easier than just talking people who feel entitled to those freedoms out of them. And they're willing to take lower wages. But there's more to it than that. It's they don't really want the population. They want the population gone. And by they, I mean powerful Jewish banking families. And the really good job at convincing black people to hate white people. The Jews have done a very good job at getting a lot of different minority groups to unite against white people. And, in the Jewish history books wrote by Jews, they brag about dominating the slave trade, owning the slave ships, the slave plantations, that they had more slaves than anyone, that they were richer than everyone. But then they just put all that on the Europeans. And the Europeans are the ones that fought and killed each other to free everyone. And used the British Navy to end slavery. The real history is everyone enslaved everyone. And the Europeans pushed for freedom and basic human dignity. And the Jews really just teach through Hollywood and everything that, the white man was always bad. The white man. And meanwhile, the Jew was the main one that owned the slaves. But he's got the black guy saying, hey, I'm your fellow persecuted minority, These white people got to go. And, Jews, they got average IQ than Ashkenazis of 116. Asian, like Southeast Asians, like Koreans, Japanese, Eastern Chinese, 105. White people, 100. A lot of the Middle East, India, North Africa, around 85. Sub-Saharan Africa, between 65 and 70, you see. So, it's beneficial for the Jew to get rid of white people and have his 116 IQ ruling over populations with an IQ of 65, 80. And then we also, before World War I happened, forget World War II, before even World War I happened, the Jews had already published 4 different books about how white people needed to be annihilated and destroyed as a race because they were a warrior race. And the Jews wanted to rule Europe from the heart of Europe, from Germany. And they had to get rid of white people to do it, they said. They wrote about these things. Now Google's going to put that at the very bottom of what you can search and find. But it used to be easy to find and know these things. But Google's owned by 2 Jews, and they bought YouTube. And now YouTube is just like how Google is with their algorithms. They bury a lot of truth. And a lot of people don't even know that Jews were killing hundreds of millions of people before there ever was any Nazis. They're basically exterminating Christians and bringing about atheistic communism and blowing up buildings with terrorist attacks all over Europe. So this is why people were mad at the Jews. But you're only told one side of history. You're told, well, they just sort of blamed the Jews for inflation, but they weren't really guilty. But they were guilty. The Jews boycotted Germany, had them starving to death. They took away all the farmland so that Germans had to export goods. In 6 months, a whole half year before the Nazis ever boycotted Jewish goods in Germany, all the newspapers around the world, the Jews had organized a worldwide boycott of German exports. And Germans had their farmland taken in World War I, so they had to sell exports to buy food. So now the German people were starving to death. They had a suicide rate higher than a birth rate. And they were the prostitute capital of the world. They were so poor, everyone was going over there, exploiting the situation to have sex in Berlin for the cheap. And then the Jews that were in the German government, even though the Germans were winning, they just signed the Treaty of Versailles. They just said, we give up, you get our farmland, and they were betrayed. Look, about what race was in America first, I don't think anybody knows. But there was a time it was a lot easier for Africans to get to South America, North America. Then the continents began to move, and it was easy for them to get into South America, but not North America. But Europe was still attached to North America. Then they moved again to where it was the easiest for Asians to get into North America. And so I think, from a lot of skeletons we see, I think that there was sort of an African population in North and South America that was replaced by a lot of invading Asiatic people, and then come European people invading. But who was there first? I don't know. But I think that really it's always been a mixture of people from the other continents coming into the New World. But I don't think that Ashkenazi Jews are Jews. I think that Edomite Pharisees converted Khazarians, and the Ashkenazi Jews, I say Jews because when you say Jews, that's what people think of. But the Ashkenazis are just a continuation of the religious order of Pharisees that opposed Jesus Christ. Most of the original Hebrews converted to Christianity. They followed Jesus as their Lord, and they went off to convert the lost tribes of Israel. And Israel was reunited as one nation under Jesus Christ. All the tribes become one as one nation. The continuation of Israel is the church. And the continuation of the Pharisees that killed Jesus is the synagogue of Satan, who masquerades as Israel when they're not. And they call themselves Israel when they're not. So I don't know about what you're asking about, who's native to North America or who came first or what or any of that. I do not believe that black people were Vikings, Greeks, Romans, and everybody else. I honestly believe that sub-Saharan Africans have an inferiority complex, and they don't have as many achievements, and so they try to claim the achievements of everybody else under the sun. Some of them are saying they're Jews, some of them are saying they're Greeks, some of them are saying they're Vikings, some of them are saying they're Mayans, some of them are saying, but they didn't have any two-story buildings, they didn't have the wheel, they didn't have all that to the 19th century. And they blame their lack of development on European colonizers. They say, well, Europeans fucked us over and kept us down, and that's why Africa isn't developed. But all the way up until the 19th century, before they were colonized, they weren't developed either. So I just think it's a lame brain excuse. Same thing with the Native Americans. They weren't peaceful hippies. They were scalping each other, skinning each other, torturing each other, ripping each other's hearts out, even eating each other. And all at war, and I've got Native American ancestry, but I'm just going to tell the truth of what it was. They worship gods that they believe had to be fed pain. And if they weren't eating pain off of your tribe, they had to be fed, they believe, if I don't feed my god pain, he's going to inflict pain upon me because he eats pain. So every tribe was pretty much ruthless and extremely cruel to outsiders. They would torture outsiders for hours and hours and hours, eat them, do all kind of horrible, god-awful things. And they were also uncivilized. They couldn't get along with each other. They would break off. Once you get more than 70 of them, they'll fight each other and break off into two different tribes. And they fought each other the whole time that whites was expanding on their territory. They could not get their shit together. And right now, we throw more and more welfare money at them, and they're just a bunch of alcoholics, and they take more money than anyone else, and they stay broke because of their communist policies. No one has an incentive to improve anything on the reservation because all the land's held in common. It's all public land. So everybody lets it go to shit because you can't just improve it and keep it. You don't get rewarded for merit. They got to have all their communist goobly-gloop bullshit at every reservation where everybody shares everything equally, even though they're not all working equally. And that's why they're poor. And they are not grown up, and they're not a man in their mind. They got to wait for the government's got to give us more money. We need more money. We need more money. We need reparations. We need more money. That's a child's thinking. Someone has to be an adult for me. Somebody needs to provide for me. Somebody needs to fix these wrongs for me. And that's how they give their power over. That's what keeps them down. That's why they'll never rise up, because they're waiting for the white man to act first. They're waiting for the white man to give them reparations. So in their mind, they're still saying, I need you to act on my behalf. They're not taking responsibility and accountability for their own life. And I'm just not going to sit here and pretend like I'm glad that the Aztecs lost. Aren't you glad that you can go to Mexico as a tourist and have a good time and come back without being dragged up on some pyramid with your heart cut out? Aren't you glad you can go to India and when a man dies, his wife isn't burnt on a fire? Every time he dies, his wife isn't burned alive? Aren't you glad you can go to China and the little feet aren't broken up and binded super tight so they have I really think the world's better off. I mean, we get told history by the Jews. They own the school books, they own the media, they own everything. And they tell the story like this. Everybody was good, nice people except white people. And white people are just the meanest people going around doing the most meanest things to everybody for no reason. And they don't tell you the other side. They don't tell you why. They don't tell you the why part. They don't tell you about when a bunch of Indians, Seminole Indians, crossed over into South Georgia and raped all the women and grabbed the babies up by their feet and bashed their brains out of their heads, raped the women, killed the old. They don't tell you about how brutal and savage these people were. And so you better be glad they lost, really. You better be glad that the people that won said, we're going to give you free speech, we're going to let you have guns, we're going to let you vote. You know, because you could have had somebody dragging you up on a pyramid to rip your heart out and cooking it and eating it in front of the people. So it's like, when you really get both sides of history, you see a reason to be an optimist, because you start to see that there is this trend where eventually evil catches up to the evil and they lose, because they don't have enough love to hold each other together. They don't have enough love to form a society to be able to organize this big of a labor force. They're stealing from their neighbor. They're sleeping with their neighbor's wife. They're killing each other. They're always fighting each other in revenge, and they can't get their shit together, and that's why they get conquered by the outside force. Like right now, I say, okay, yeah, white people are in the decline. They're losing, but it's because of their wickedness. With white hate and white guilt, but that's because they watch the propaganda. They pay for the Hollywood propaganda. If you are a moral people, it don't matter what your intelligence is. If you're a moral people, no outsider can conquer you. If you come across the community where if somebody's house catches on fire, everybody help put the fire out and get them back on their feet again. If you live in a community where we're not the same as our ancestors, like it's god awful over here. You've got these women. You think the women that come over to America that took this land from the Indians was all about abortions? Come over to America that took this land from the Indians was all about abortions and wanting to be whores? Hell no. They'll become a whore and be like, here, everybody can have it. Everybody come in and take it. Disrespect, sacrifices, sweat and blood. Anybody can have it. It's because we're not a moral society anymore. And that's why we're being conquered. But we are being conquered. We are being genocided. It's slow and it's systematic. And I'm not going to bullshit about it and pretend it ain't going to happen. But I'm also not going to try to dodge accountability. There's a reason that white people are destroyed and eradicated. And it's they've lost their moral. I have no patience to hear anything from African Americans calling me the white devil when they kill about almost half of their own babies. When their murder rate is so high. When 1 out of 22 black men murdered someone, and it's near about 700 white people to get a murderer. So I just don't want to hear about how we're the white devil. I just don't, I don't want to hear all these crocodile tears about the Native Americans when they were as ruthless and brutal as they were to the elderly. And they had slaves too. These Native Americans still had slaves after America ended slavery. They don't talk about that, do they? You know that Native Americans had slaves, that Jews had slaves? Do you know that a lot of black people had slaves? Do you know that the first person in America to have was a black man, and there was a court case about whether or not he had the right to have slaves? He's a Muslim man, and they said, okay, we're going to acknowledge that he was this property. That gave the English law common precedent to let slavery in the beginning. And then white people kill their own race. They say, we feel really bad for these black people. We're going to kill each other and set them free. And then, is there any appreciation? No. There's not a single thank you. There's not a thank you for killing your own cousins to set us free. There's none of that. There's, you owe us forever because you was mean to us. But why did you get enslaved in the first place? Because you wasn't a moral people. Why did your neighbors conquer you? Why were they able to conquer you and sell you off for alcohol and bullets? But everybody's been enslaved. If you know enough about history, everybody is a descendant of a king and a descendant of a slave. Everything's a cycle. Nobody stays in the sun forever. If you go back far enough in history, and a lot of people don't believe it, but it's true. If you go back far enough in history, sub-Saharan Africans were the ruler of this world. In the early days, the kingship come from Kush. It was first the black people ruled over the world. And then it was the Middle Eastern people ruled over the world. And then it was the European people ruled all over the world. And everybody gets their day, but nobody stays in the sun forever. One, because when you're in the sun, it makes you arrogant and complacent. When you feel safe and you feel secure, you start doing all kind of experiments with dumb ideas like veganism, communism, feminism, abortion. Like white people went from a third of the world to 7% of the world. And right now they're trying to push abortion and homosexuality on the world. You're going extinct and you're fighting for the right to be gay and kill your babies. Are you retarded? So so I'm just like, I don't know. I think I'm just about the truth, even if it hurts people's feelings. But everybody, I don't get a pass. Nobody gets a pass. But it takes two to tango. So are the Jews working to genocide white people? Yes. Are white people corrupt and paying for it to happen? Yes. Like right now, not too long ago, the Israelis just shot a Christian monk in the Church of the Nativity. And he did so with money, how to get his gun and how to get his bullets. Christians sent him the money. Christians in America sent altogether something like $30 billion to Israel so Israel can go burn Christian villages in Gaza and burn every man, woman, and child to death. And they never tell you what the Jews are doing. The Jews in Russia were burning Christian men, women, and children in churches. Do you know they've raped everyone ages 80 to 8 on orders as official Soviet policy all the way to Berlin? You know that the Nazis, if they raped someone, you had to clear mines until you blew up or get killed by a firing squad. So it's like, I think that's something that people need to know. Why were people mad at these Jews? What were these Jews doing? They were guilty. They deserved it. It was their karma. They were really out here being terrorists, killing people, crucifying people, disemboweling people, burning people up. Because in the Talmud, it says everybody that's not a Jew is supposed to be their slaves. So we just don't have souls and we're just animals in the shape of a human to serve them. And, the Muslims are pretty obvious about it. So everybody knows to watch out for them because they're like, we're trying to conquer the world. You're an infidel. Allah Akbar. They're really loud about it. But the Jews are really sneaky and quiet. They act all meek and humble and innocent. And we never did anything to anybody. Everybody hates us for no reason. We're always just have the moral high ground. And we're always just preaching peace. And everybody keeps kicking us out for no reason. And everybody keeps being racist to us for no reason. And everybody keeps accusing us of owning the banks and the media. But we don't. But they do. They do. But white people are a special kind of retarded because they have no natural self-preservation instinct whatsoever. And if every single person around them is exercising in-group preference and nepotism, white people don't. They're just completely ignorant. I think they don't want to wake up to what's happening to them. They're not paying attention. They're not really reading the room, Everybody, you gotta be dumb as fuck to be like, we need to open our borders and let everybody that hates us come in here. And then you go interview them and they're like, you don't deserve to have a country. It's all stolen. Like, shit. Whoa, where are you driving to? I'm driving home. I'm home now. Where are you? What, I got another fatwa on my head or something? I'm in Alamo, Georgia. But in Wheeler County, Georgia, we're about half and half. Well, maybe there's 40% black, 10% Mexican, 50% white, something like that. And everybody pretty much gets along with each other. We don't have any incidents. You'll see on the news in some of these big cities, they'll be burning down the city and fighting each other and all this. And over here, we're all getting along with each other. But why are we getting along with each other? Because we're decent folk. There's plenty of black people, white people, Mexican people in Wheeler County. They're not stealing from each other. Most of them believe in Jesus. That really holds a lot of them in check because they at least believe that there's eternal consequences for things, that somebody's watching them. If God wasn't real, it'd be necessary for people to believe he was to keep a lot of people in check. But then there's a downside to it, is where so many wrongs don't get made right. Because instead of humans taking personal responsibility and say, hey, we got to bring justice in the world, they're like, well, got to straighten it all out after we die. So that's the downside. The positive side is you got some people who are straight up psychos that would do all kind of god horrible shit, except they believe they'll burn in hell. And then you got people like me. I don't really have to have the threat of hellfire to want to be a good person, because I don't hate humans. I'm not out here saying animals are better than people. I don't believe that. I think humans are the most beautiful thing on the planet. We're smarter than all the animals. We help more other animals than animals help other animals. So I don't hate humans. I want to see humans doing good. I love humans. We're just very powerful. So when we do something fucked up or evil, we're able to do horrible damage or very powerful good things too, And there's a lot of human hatred out there on the internet. Like they'll show a cat like lick a kitten and they'll be like, humans don't deserve cats. Cats are so much more loving than humans. And then I know a guy in Glenwood, there was a male cat that was a child molester fucking kittens. So it's like, it's not like these animals are innocent. Like there's a rabbit that ate its own babies. It's not like they're like perfect angels like them animals are either. And then people start looking to animals for advice. Like, shit, the animals do it, so we should be able to do it. Like, I don't like to take advice from people I wouldn't swap places with. Like, do you really want to take advice from the animals? Because we're just like crushing it, winning it way better than they are. I like half these damn, like we building birdhouses. We're safe anyway. There's all kind of like if a human finds out an animal's about to go extinct, we go to rescue them and try to save them from going extinct. If humans were going extinct, animals ain't gonna come rescue us. And then people are gonna keep saying that like the animals are more moral than we are, and humans are a cancer on the planet, and we should stop having kids, and we need to all die and let it all be overgrown. Fuck that. Humans are just as much a part of nature as the rest of the animals. It's just as important that we clear forests, burn things down, kill animals, make other animals. It's just if you could, like, let's say that all of Earth was going to be blown up and aliens were going to show up and they could only save one animal, they'd be a fool not to take humans. And a lot of humans online, they don't feel that way. They feel like, oh, humans don't deserve dogs. How the hell don't we deserve dogs? When we bred them from wolves, we earned it. We guided the path of their breeding to make them what they are. That's why they're so friendly, because we made them that way. We put the selective pressure on them for them to be that way. And then people are like, humans don't even deserve dogs. Why y'all got the media making y'all hate yourselves so much? When you got these Jews come out, like I'm just going to say, Bill Gates, the Jew. Jeffrey Epstein, the Jew. They come out and they're like, we need to reduce the population. There's too many people. They want you dead. Quit taking advice from people that want you dead. Quit listening to the experts that want you dead. Anybody that talks like humans are a cancer on the planet, quit listening to them. Fuck them. And if we don't we're never going to get off this planet if we don't have enough humans united, putting their brains together to fix the problem. We could do all kind of things. But, and the willpower is very important. Because if you got somebody dumb as rocks, but he's got self-discipline, he will outperform a genius with no self-discipline. A lazy man that won't push himself, it don't matter if he's the smartest man in the world, he's going to lose to a retard that's like really, really committed to winning. And I'm not saying that to like, I don't know what I'm just saying, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of attributes of human character that are underrated. And I do think intelligence is important, but I think it's overrated. Being a good person is very important. Not being lazy is very important. Let's say you're super intelligent, but you're super intelligent, but you're evil. You're just going around being a psycho serial killer. You're not doing the world no favors. It'd be better off if you weren't smart than if you were smart, because now you're just using your intelligence for evil. So I think virtue is the number one thing. The number one thing, as far as like judging people, is you want as far as like, you want them to be a good person, to have love for life in their heart. You don't want somebody that's just like looks at people and thinks those are tools or there's too many of them. That's not who you want to have political power. And we've got a lot of people in political power all over the world now that they are working with the Jews to try to lower the populations of their own country. They're not statesmen. They don't love their own people. They're working, betraying their own people, trying to kill the people because the Jews want only their children to get earth. They want to phase everybody else out. And I mean, a lot of people, they don't believe it. They're not going to want to pay attention to it, but it's happening. And don't fall for all this bullshit. You're not overpopulated. It's good to have more kids. But also, people get turned against people too easily, too. But also, I think you got to be real. It doesn't do you no good to live in some kind of delusion to make you feel comfortable now. It's better to know the ugly, uncomfortable truth. And, it's like we're wasting a lot of money because we're tricked into believing certain lies. Like a lot of people in America believe that Israel's our greatest ally. It's like having a friend that takes you to the bar and gets in a fight all the time and drags you into a bunch of fights. Israel's attacked all their neighbors, made America bleed and spend money for fighting all of their neighbors. And it's not made America any stronger. We're just more in debt, more degenerate. Like there's this thought that if America blesses Israel, America will be blessed. And Israel's nothing but a liability for America. And people just don't really, they see Muslims as the bad guys and they don't give a fuck. They don't care if the Jews kill Muslims. They don't even give a fuck. So it's not even, like, even if you can show somebody, yeah, they really are systematically genociding the Palestinians, a lot of Americans don't care. They're like, good, let the Muslims die. They want to kill me. But what they don't realize is the Jews want to kill you too. And they're a more formidable enemy, actually. And they own the bank, and they own the media, and they own the medical academia, the colleges, and the medical colleges. And I'm not saying, there's a saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And that's not always true. Sometimes they're both your enemy. Let them fight each other. Stay out of it. But like, dang, why? Why? The Jews get this idea in their head. Let's go live in the middle of everyone that hates us. That's their decision. Why are we bleeding for it? Why are we bleeding to protect them there? And what do we get out of it? Nothing. You can't always help people by helping them. That guy that's like on the corner asking everybody for $2 and he just gets enough to buy his beer and get something to eat. And so he's got his food stamp safety net. So he's never going to starve. So he's never going to get a job. That's not helping him. None of that help is helping him. It would help him more to not give him anything. Be like, no, I ain't going to give you $1. Get a job. And then he got a job, got some dignity, got some pride, he's helping the economy. He's productive in society. He can help other people because he's got surplus, so, and it's the same thing with foreign aid. It's not that I just hate all these other countries, but you can't skip steps. And people forget this. Americans will go to another country and be like, you've got to ban child labor. Why are you forcing that country to ban child labor? We had child labor in America. All of our grandparents talk about when they were children, they had to work. And just like there's child labor in China, that's part of it. You have, like, when you're broke as fuck in your countries, everything's fucked up, you need all the labor you can get. And then eventually you're in a position where you ain't got to worry about that. Like, there's countries in Africa, people give them free food and free clothes. And that's why they're always poor. Because the farmers cannot stay in business competing with free food. And all the little family household businesses where the women are making clothes, they can't sell those clothes for a profit when everybody's dumping acres and acres of free clothes in the area. So they need the child labor. They need the textile mills They need the small farms, and they need to be able to build their economy from the ground up, and we're just wiping it around. We're thinking we're helping them, but we're really just fucking up the economy by throwing free shit in there. And it's really a bad, like, people work off rewards and punishments. And what we're doing now in this country is we're rewarding people for being losers. We're like, oh, you're a loser? Well, you get more food in your refrigerator than somebody that works. Oh, you're a loser? Well, we're going to pay for you to breed 12 more losers. We're going to take the money from the people that are productive. It's just, you can't, either they're stupid or they're evil. They're either trying to destroy this shit on purpose, or they're so dumb they haven't thought this out. You know, like a lot of these nation states didn't even exist in certain parts of the world until the ivory trade. Once we said, look, we'll give you a lot of money for some elephant tusk. Now they're going to have to go take down an elephant. And that requires more teamwork and cooperation than just taking out a gazelle. And so then there's actually an incentive to organize labor and organize more people working together in a group. Well, that was already done with the Asians and Europeans when they was hunting mammoths. They already had to do that because of the ice they was in. And you can't skip the steps. So then the Zulus, that's how they even start to become a nation, from the ivory trade. And then by ganging up in numbers to hunt these elephants, they learn battle tactics of how to defeat other tribes. And there's just... But all my life, I've been told, you know, we're just the bad guys. We're why everyone else is not doing good. You know, we've just... And the truth is, a lot of these, you can't help somebody that won't help themselves. Just like on an individual level, you can't help somebody. Like you got somebody that's strung out on meth and they just don't want to quit meth and you can't help them. It's the same thing. There's some nations that are just, you can't help them. They don't want to help themselves. Like, you're dumb as fuck for trying to help Israel have peace. They're preemptively striking everybody around them all the time. You're fighting a losing battle trying to help them have peace. I don't know. I guess every day I'm going to just try to... My girlfriend's like, are you trying to get banned off of everything that you're on? Like, are you just trying to get banned? I'm not really trying to get banned. They give me my Facebook back, and then a day later, they took it right back from me because they found something in my timeline way back when I said that they should hang pedophiles. And they said I was advocating violence. And I guess I am, but damn, that's not bad. They should. And now on YouTube, where they're like, I love history. I like psychology. Hello, everybody. I like history. And I think that if you really want to understand what's going on in the world now, you've got to understand history. Because when you know history, you know a lot of patterns. And so there's a lot of, like, you can tell the future if you know enough history. Because if you know enough history, you can look at something that's happened now and say, oh, that happened 4 or 5 times before. And when that happened, it led to this. And so I think, if a nation does not know their history, they are perpetually an infant. You're still a baby if you don't know your history. And people do corrupt history for political reasons and use history, twisted versions of history in their propaganda. But because people consistently do it, you can learn a history of that too. I mean, you can... But that's the easiest way to predict the future is to understand history. Because then anytime anything happens on the news, you're going to know, I know that happened 4 or 5 times before, and if you do that, this will happen. But are people going to learn from it? No, because most people don't care about history. So what you'll do is you'll watch it happening, knowing what's going to happen before it happens. You're like, wait a minute, this happened in history. If you do this, it's going to lead to this. Most people won't know about history, won't care. They won't change a bad decision until it hurts them enough, and they're just going to do it anyway. And that's why history keeps repeating itself. Humans don't change. Human nature hasn't changed. That's why we do the same things. And most people, when they're at fault and they're guilty as fuck, they blame somebody else. Always. And so that's why there's so little development and learning from mistakes. Because people don't learn from others' mistakes. They don't learn from their own mistakes. And I like to go back and get those, go back to the older history books and then read the newer history books. And you'll see how they change things for political reasons. And just know that they've been doing that in history always. History's always been kind of twisted a little bit and used as a propaganda tool. You can control people a lot by controlling how they see themselves. And if you can control people's history, you can control their future. You can control how they see themselves in the world. And people will always protect their identity if they see it as part of their self. They'll believe things that make no sense, that contradict other things that they believe, and they'll be completely blind to it if accepting a truth means that they're not who they think they are. If a truth contradicts someone's core values, their instinct isn't going to be to change their core values. It's going to be to deny the truth right in front of them. And you can show people things like this. Like you can show people where, I'll give an example. There's a place in the book of Acts in the Bible where the Apostle Paul is on the road to Damascus. He's going to Damascus and he says that he sees Jesus. He says that there's people with him, that Jesus appeared to him in the wilderness on his way to Damascus. And he tells the story at least 2 times, I think 3 times, but he tells it more than 1 time. And in one of these times, he says that he sees the bright light, he heard voices, he heard a sound and he sees a bright light. But he says that the people that are with him, they heard the sound, but they didn't see the light. The next time he tells the story, he switches it around. So it's like, which is true? Did he see the light? Did they not see the light? Did they hear the sound? Did they not hear the sound? And how can both of these verses be true when they're saying the opposite thing? So I show this to my dad. And my dad's core belief is the Bible's always right and it's always true and every verse in the Bible is true. And so you're looking at something that's completely the opposite. They both cannot be true. And he just keeps saying, well, in both stories, he's going to Damascus. He starts pointing out all the things that are similar and line up and just trying to sort of just brush past the fact that you have 2 contradictions where these things, it just doesn't fit. Something's off here, but he can't see it. It's the same thing, like he believes that he will be cursed if he don't support Israel. So it doesn't matter what Israel does, no matter what. He's never going to see Israel as the bad guy. He's forced to support Israel no matter what. You can never be like, well, maybe, I shouldn't support them because they absolutely hate me and want me to die. Maybe I shouldn't support them because they're putting bullets in kids' heads, or while people are starving to death, they're cooking barbecues. They're like, you smell this good food we're eating while you're starving to death? And he's still going to have cognitive dissonance. He's going to be like, Israel's the good guys. The Muslims are the bad guys. Let's send money to Israel. And I'm just like, oh man, I'm just like, dang. Shit, they're over here shooting babies in the head. And it's not, and they don't let journalists in to see it, but we know it because of Doctors Without Borders and doctors. Doctors are like, I pulled a bullet out of this baby's head. They so fuck. And they've been doing it. The Russian genocide, the Serbian genocide. They come out of so their story is they come out of slavery in Egypt and then they go enslave people. We were slaves in Egypt. Then they go in and they go out and they genocide the Canaanites. They kill every man, woman, and child, and even the animals. They kill all of. They're like, this is our land, you know. And then it's like, I don't think they're genociding the Palestinians, even though they genocided the Canaanites to take the land in the first place. Even though the Bolshevik Revolution, and just, I used to be the strongest supporter of Israel there was. I went to John Hagee's church. I was raised to just support Israel. And I started coming against fractional reserve banking because it's theft. It's dishonest. It's evil. And then I'd get called an anti-Semite. And I'm like, why am I being called an anti-Semite? I support Israel. I'm just against fractional reserve banking. That ain't got nothing to do with Israel. Or I thought. But it turns out that Israel's basically just the kingdom of the Rothschilds. That it's pretty much just bought by the fraudulent American banking. This whole fractional reserve, where it's a corporation, it's a banking cartel, where Italian Jews and British Jews control America's money supply. And they just print up money and steal generational wealth and just suck money out of us to build a one world government, to put their banks everywhere. Every single Muslim country we drop bombs on and invade and fight and bleed and die to take gets a Jewish Rothschild bank. Every single one of them. That's the first thing the new puppet government does. Is they're like, let's get this Jewish bank in here. And I'm going to tell you, once they get one of these Jewish banks in every single country in the world, the next thing, and they're already saying it at the World Economic Forum, they want to put a chip in us and track all of our money, be able to turn our money off, tax us directly. And they want to chip everybody in the world. So it's the craziest thing, because the Christians believe that in the end times there's going to be a mark of the beast where nobody can buy or sell unless they have this chip. Right? That's what they're thinking. And then the very people who want to build this system are the Jews. That's the one the Christians give all their money to. They're paying for their slavery. It's like they're trying to make the apocalypse happen. They're trying to make the worst possible fucking thing that can happen. We think the Antichrist will show up, wants the Jews to build a temple. Let's give them some money so they can build the temple. I just don't get it. Is it just, are they suicidal? I don't know. I ain't giving them nothing. They're able to just print up money out of thin air. They're able to just, shit. I ain't giving them no money. Fuck that. If it ain't a woman or a child, they probably not getting no money from me. I'm like, shit, you're a man? Oh, okay. Well, go be a man and go support other women and children. Like, why are you asking me for stuff? Like, starve to death, that's more women for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm with Brittany. I ain't worried about getting with other women, but I'm just saying, that's my competition. I'm not going to give you money. So you can have, pull up with nicer clothes and shit and take the women. I'm not going to give you money and not have it for my children so your children can have it. I'm not going to do it. And I don't expect you to do it for me either. You know? Like, if you stuck in the mud, I'll pull you out of the mud. If you're about to die, I'll save your life within reason. But let's say that my child's about to drown in the river and your child's about to drown in the river. Well, I'm going to save my child, and if I can get to yours, I'll get to it. If I can, I can't. And everybody's that way. Everybody will put their family above strangers. So why wouldn't you put your extended family before strangers? Why wouldn't you put your nation before other nations? Why wouldn't you tend the garden you can reach? That's the most efficient and best way humans can take care of humans. If humans take care of the humans around them. Now, why are you going all the way to the other side of the world to help somebody? Everybody help your neighbor. But also, you're not helping nobody if you're just letting them be a loser. You're not made to host parasites. You know? You don't have to give to somebody that's always going to take and never give anything back. And I think people need, not everybody, I'm going to say this about white people. I think white people need to be on the farm. That's what's wrong. They got us all off all the family farms and into the cities and all this kind of stuff. White people need to be on a farm. They need to have some animals they can tell what to do. Because if they don't, then they start getting in the business of every other country, everywhere else, and all kind of other shit. They start trying to farm their own people like a big old tax farm plantation. They start just doing way. They just, you just need like, I don't know. Like, if you have chickens, you'll see that you'll have a chicken. They'll try to be dominant. They'll fight for dominance over who's going to be the leader, who's going to be in charge, and all the animals on the farm will do it. They all compete, and it's like there's a masculine desire to dominate, and it's just that it's got to be satiated. That need to dominate has got to be satiated. So humans need to have plants and animals and all kind of other things under their dominion and control, because and I think that's really what our purpose is. We're supposed to be looking out for these animals and plants and being the caretakers of this planet, and we get distracted from that and we start trying to rule over each other. And none of us is fit to do it. There's not one single person that's got his life together so well that he's in a position to tell other people how they should be living their lives. There isn't no one that qualifies. They ain't one of us is God. And the government will be saying, you can have this animal, you can't have this plant, you can do this, you can't do that. You didn't make none of the animals or plants. Who are you? Just more people. Who are you to tell me anything about what? And I just think that humans really should just be focusing on the animals and the plants. And so these apes have been taught the concept of money. They've been able to teach chimpanzees, orangutans, and why aren't we trading with them? Let them go up in the jungle and get all the fruit, and let's give them some kind of money in exchange and stuff. And they got them monkeys at work getting coconuts, and people are protesting it. Why are you protesting that? That's a great thing. The monkeys aren't getting killed by predators. The monkeys are getting fed. The monkeys are getting sheltered. The monkeys are getting like veterinarian help if they need it. The monkeys climb up there. They already are good at getting coconuts. Like, that's a good thing. Let's put all these animals to work. Shit. Trying to make it illegal for people to put monkeys to work. They putting us to work. You got to go to work. Why are you saying it's abuse for the monkey to go to work? Shit, the monkey would normally have to try to get that coconut and not get ate by a hawk and not get ate by an alligator. Now there's just a crew of monkeys riding around a truck. The human pulls up. They go up there and get the coconuts. The human has a machete and can open up the coconuts more efficiently than the monkey. Both people are winning. It's helping. Well, both people. The monkey's winning. The people are winning. It's helping both of them. And why the hell can't I domesticate deer? Why is that illegal? They domesticated a goat, domesticated sheep, domesticated a cow. So you can domesticate every split hoof animal that chews the cud except a deer and a giraffe. I don't get that. I should be able to farm deer and giraffe and all of it. I have chickens, and that's the only animal I got. I got dogs. Brittany's got some pet dogs, and I've got a bunch of chickens. I did have some quail. I don't have any quail anymore. I'll probably get quail and turkey. I want to get goats and sheep and cows, but I'm really just I can't afford the fence right now. And if I got a goat today, he'd probably eat the leaves off my fruit trees. Mostly, I got about 30 blueberry bushes, about 30 peach trees, about 7 apple trees. I don't know how many little orange trees, and I'm trying to fill up 7 acres with fruit and nut producing trees. I'm trying to get it to where I can grow most of my food and I can make enough money off of my land to pay the property tax. So I don't have to worry about losing the land. And then when I get old, I can't remember anything. I can walk out my door and there'll be food all around me. And that'd be my retirement. And I got bees. I forgot about the bees. They're an animal, a little animal. I got 2 colonies of honeybees. I've been a beekeeper since 2006. I scaled back for a long time, but I'm about to get more heavy into beekeeping. And it's just, I keep losing service. I don't have good service here. Part of it's because of the tin roof. I gotta check it. What time it is? It's 4:37. I think Brittany gets off at work at 4. Let me make. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop this stream and I'm gonna call Brittany and see if I got to pick her up from work. And I might start streaming again, and I might not. I don't know yet. I might was supposed to pick her up at 4 and forgot, and I'm 30 minutes late. Let's see.